Fort Grey Falcon had fallen. Few threats remained that could challenge a man like Jorgrim. But as long as something still haunted the roads of Aldor, his journey wasn't over. At first light, the camp was behind him once again. Sharpened axes, just enough supplies, no speeches, no hesitation. The trail led to ancient ruins. The dead still walked there, and Jorgrim went to meet them. Truine Hand Necropolis. There, Jorgrim would face a different kind of darkness. Undead who refused to rest, bound to this world by a power he had yet to understand. Even so, his mind was ready. He needed no further reason. He simply moved forward. The first encounters were enough for Jorgrim to realize one thing. These battles would not be won with a single decisive blow. They were a test of endurance. The undead refused to stay down, and those who wielded unholy magic could raise the fallen or spread their wounds among their allies, forcing him to fight the same battle again and again. Against men, victory came by breaking their resolve. Against the dead, resolve meant nothing. Jorgrim would have to manage his strength differently. Longer battles, greater exhaustion, and a berserker willing to keep fighting long after any other warrior would have fallen. But that wasn't the necropolis's greatest danger. The undead rarely fought alone. When they gathered in great numbers, they shattered the flow of battle. Every fallen enemy could rise again. Every mistake was punished by the entire horde. Jorgrim would learn that lesson on the second floor. There, the dead drew their strength not from a single warrior, but from their numbers. Once again, his instincts would be put to the test, and he would have to adapt to survive. It was one of the hardest moments since entering the necropolis. Perhaps he had pushed forward too quickly, or perhaps he had underestimated the skeletal spearman. Its relentless pressure never allowed him to regain control of the fight. Once again, Jorgrim turned to his consumables. Pain awakened the berserker within him. As the battle dragged on, every blow he endured was answered with even greater fury. All that could be heard was the sound of bones breaking and bodies collapsing onto the cold stone. Jorgrim survived, but more importantly, he learned a little more about how to fight these creatures. battles never stopped. Neither did Jorgrim. Room after room, the dead kept rising. But this no longer felt like a simple curse. Someone was keeping those souls bound to their bodies. Someone was feeding the corruption within the necropolis. Jorgrim didn't know who it was yet, but with every enemy he defeated, and every step deeper into the necropolis, he knew he was getting closer to the answer. At last, the moment had come. Beyond that final enemy, the master of the necropolis awaited him. Jorgrim didn't know his opponent, nor did he need to. He would not leave this battle to chance. He studied the battlefield, chose where the fight would take place, readied his axes, readied his mind. Everything was in place. Let the duel begin. Jorgrim knew exactly what he was doing. Everything he had learned throughout the necropolis had prepared him for this fight. Before him stood a spirit corrupted by the most powerful unholy magic he had encountered so far. Yet his axes still found their mark, and that was enough. His instincts, his experience,
and every lesson learned within those halls were enough to bring down the spirit and the dead that fought beside it. Once again, he turned every disadvantage into an advantage. He knew when to endure, when to press forward, and when to unleash the Berserker completely. The necropolis had fallen. Now only its hidden chambers remained, along with the treasures that had rested among the dead for countless years.
As expected, the necropolis was filled with valuable treasures, jewelry, relics, possessions that had once belonged to Aldor's nobles and most influential people. Souls who had never found the peace they deserved. Jorgrim took only what no longer held any meaning for them, not as a raider, but as a small reward for laying them to rest. Every tomb, every forgotten urn held another surprise. After exploring the final chambers and overcoming the last remaining battles, Jorgrim's task in the necropolis was complete. It was time to return to camp, to rest, to share what he had learned, and decide where the road would lead next. Because Aldor was still filled with dangers, and so far, it seemed that only Jorgrim was willing to stand against them. Back at camp, Jorgrim finally had time to rest. In the silence of the night, he reflected on everything he had accomplished. The way he fought was no longer the same. He was still the warrior of Fjall, but Aldor had left its mark on him. He had learned to fight different enemies, to read every battle, to adapt without abandoning what defined him. His essence remained unchanged. Everything else had. And for the first time since leaving Fjall, he felt that he had truly earned his place in those lands. He no longer traveled alone. Without ever seeking them, he had found new brothers along the road, people with whom to share the fire, the journey, and its hardships. A caravan bound not by blood, but by the road they had chosen to walk together, to explore, to survive, and to protect Aldor from the dangers that still lingered in the shadows. There is still road left to walk, and we have yet to witness the final trials awaiting Jorgrim, but the end is finally beginning to appear on the horizon. If you've been enjoying Jorgrim's story, leave a like to show that the path he chose was the right one. Let's become one more brother in his caravan and see his journey through to the very end. I'll see you in the next chapter.